it's Laura. I'm Mostly Crafty here on YouTube and Instagram. Welcome to my Flosstube Extra, my mid-year WIP parade, or I guess my mid-year WIP parade. I don't know how it will show up on YouTube. WIP parade is a work in progress parade where I'm going to go through all of the projects for cross stitch that I'm working on. When I filmed my first WIP parade, January 3rd, I had 7 works in progress. I now have 16, although I have also finished roughly one thing a month. So there's some math there on how many I've started. 9 plus 6, 15. That's a lot of starts. That seems impossible. Anyway, we'll figure it out as we go through here. I have things roughly in order of oldest to newest. Of these 7 projects that I had when I filmed my last WIP parade, I have finished 2 of them and probably UFO 1 of them. So let's get started. All right, my first project, this would have been my oldest project. I started it back in March, and the last time you saw it, I was at 52%, but now it is an FFO, and that is my favorite and yours, the Disco Ball of Doom. This is by Loopy Cross on Etsy. So far, I've seen one other person finish it on their reviews. This is roughly 15,000 stitches. Like I said, I was at 52% when you saw me, and so I did quite a bit of stitching. And when I finished this in April, it is the called for DMC. There are 64 colors. I finished it in this hoop. Don't look at the back. This hoop that I spray painted silver. And it hangs on my wall behind my desk. And from a distance, it looks like a real disco ball, but it's not. It's stitching. So finally finished that. Glad to have finished that. All right, my next project that I had started is Monster House by Satsuma Street. I started this in July when I was in Halifax for my friend's wedding. And when you saw this in January, I was at 53%. I'm still working on this. This is now at 65%. So I have 9,300 stitches out of 14,364 stitches. I love working on this project. It is the most fun. Each of these little areas is usually like 2 different kind of coordinating colors of floss. I think it's so much fun. This is a vintage 28 count linen that I hand dyed myself. It's a Jenny Thompson linen blanc that I have dyed myself. I love this so much. I'm going to pick this back up in July, I think. The last time that I worked on this was in April for halfway to Halloween, and I got quite a bit done. But I definitely want it on my wall by Halloween this year, so I need to start working on it. The next project that you would have seen is my Mirabilia. She big. She also looks less like a turkey, finally, but more looks like, I don't know, a Space Invader something. You saw this at 15%. This is Mirabilia's Portrait of Lady M that I started in my birthday month, August. And I am still 15%. I have not stitched on this at all since like November. I don't like it. I might UFO this. When I first started it, I had never stitched a Mirabilia before and seen so many people stitching them and saw the blue and black stripes, and I'm a stripe girly, so I really wanted to stitch it. So I started, and in reality, it's not blue. Here, let me get this over here. I ironed this. It's on a giant piece of fabric. It's like a purple, and there's so much brown, and I don't like the brown. And I could really use the extra fabric for something else. This is 32 count Icelandic blue linen. So yeah, I don't know. This is her waist, by the way, like her lap. is what this is. And I'm over it. I have it all kitted up. I bought all the floss. I bought all the beads. I don't like it. So we'll see. The next WIP that you would have seen is Winter's Folly, also by Nora Corbett. This is a finish. It's done. I really like it. I think it is beautiful. This is one of my favorite things to stitch, and I also learned how to bead for this, and the beads really give it like a really great texture. This is 32 count Graceful Grace, the called for, with the called for DMC and Karen Water Lilies for the most part. I subbed out one Karen Water Lily for 3371 because I was like, I can't be bothered to buy a brown for like 30 stitches or something. But I really love this. And what I think I want to do is finish it on like a piece of mat board, and then have kind of a rotating frame or like a larger frame with a linen background that I can just kind of like tack seasonal finishes up on. I think that's what I want to do. I love this. When you saw this was at 56%. I started it in November, and I finished it in April. You know, a very snowy month, April. Not snowy at all. So it's at 100%. And I really like that one. Another WIP that you would have seen in my previous Flosstube is one of my favorite projects. This is Blueberry J by JEDxStitch. Blueberry Bay, blah, blah, blah. When you saw this, I was at 8.7%. I'm now at 55%. It is 11,659 stitches. I started this in mid-December as my Sunday stitch, which, if you're not familiar with what I did for that, a lot of people do a snowy day stitch because where they live, you get a lot of snow, and so you stitch on one project when it snows. Well, I live in Seattle, and if you've been around here, you followed Laura's Weather Channel for a while, it does not snow here. And in fact, it rains a lot in the winter. So I decided instead to pick out a project that I would only work on days where it was sunny. Well, I got a lot done on her. I got like 40% of the way done by the time spring rolled around. And then I put her away. And I picked her back up last week for the summer solstice. And she's looking really good. I've got, get her a little wider. Did all that corner. I'm missing one DMC color 3012, which is kind of down along the bottom, but she's doing really great. This is the called for DMC, and then there's two Threadworks colors, this blue, and then this kind of burgundy color. And it's the called for Malachite fabric by Fiber on a Whim. I think this is 32 count. But I love her. JEDx is my favorite designer. I have 5 of her patterns on the go. This is, again, one of my focus projects for the summer, so I'm stitching on that like every other day. The other pattern you would have seen is Holiday House, also by Satsuma Street. This is the Christmas sibling to the Monster House that I love stitching on. When I started this in December on Christmas, this was at 5%. She is now at 5%. Crushing it. Didn't work on this at all after Christmas and like New Year's. This is also a Jenny Thompson linen blanc that I dyed myself blue. It's 28 count. So far, I don't love stitching on this as much as the Halloween one. I think this was a sal that came out this Christmas by Satsuma Street, and I could not keep up. I don't love the characters as much. Like the polar bear is kind of dorky. Yeah. So far, I believe it's all the called for DMC, and I will pick this back up again for Christmas. The other project that I started around Christmas is Peace and Light, also by Satsuma Street. What is Satsuma Street? How many do I have by her? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I have 4 Satsuma streets on the go. So if I only have 16 WIPs and 5 are JEDxStitch and 4 are Satsuma Street, I like them. This is a Hanukkah pattern, but I started it in December after I saw Jen's Fiberweb begin it for kind of a remembrance piece after the massacre at Bondi Beach that happened right around the holidays. And so I am stitching it so far in the called for DMC. When you saw this, I was at 10%, and I'm probably at 10% right now. I don't think I've picked it up since January. It has a lot of Krynic though, and I picked up some sort of metallic floss when I was at Acorns and Thread so that I could keep working on it. So I do love it. It's like a dove holding a menorah. This is let's call it an 18 count Ada that I dyed blue. I originally dyed it for Hello from Liz Matthews Cardinal that she put out in her Patreon in December, until I realized that was 15,000 stitches, and I was like, no, we are not stitching a 15,000 stitch cardinal pattern, no matter how cute it is. We do not have time for that. So instead I stitched a tiny little cardinal from her snow globe patterns for the class she did at Jingle Ball. And I was much happier with that. 10 out of 10. That's the way to do it. Okay. Those were all of the patterns you would have seen in my, mostly in my, actually, that's probably why. Hold on. You saw 4 others, so let me keep going. These you would have seen that I started in early January, but was still working on that first week that I did my WIP grade. So next is another JEDx pattern. This is Witch's Road by JEDxStitch. This is my full moon stitch along pattern, and I had seen Stephanie at Cross Stitch the Globe and Jen at Jen's Fiberweb stitch full moon projects last month, and I wanted to get in on the action. So I started this as a project I only stitch on the day of the full moon. You saw this, I was at 8%, so 1 day of stitching. I'm now at 38%. I have 1,600 out of 4,300 stitches. So I'm actually behind on this. There are 13 full moons in the year of 2026. And so I need to stitch like 360 stitches a full moon to stay caught up, and I have not. But that's okay. This is on more of that vintage 28 count linen by Jenny Thompson that I love. There's threads everywhere. That I dyed this blue color. I dyed it for, I think I dyed this originally for that holiday house project, and it was darker than what I wanted, so I re-dyed that piece lighter. It's mostly the called for DMCs. JEDx did this all in fancy flosses, and so I've subbed out some of these colors in the middle to brighten them up, because I'm finding a lot of ghosting with the called for on this color, and I don't love this deep navy, but we'll see as it keeps going. I like stitching on it. It's fine. Not my favorite pattern. That is available on her Ko-Fi, and then maybe she just opened an Etsy store. But it's a pay what you want pattern, so I don't think there's a paper pattern at your local needlework stores. Okay. The next pattern that you would have seen was Summer Quaker, and I was 0.5%. So I think I had this little line like that far. And now look how far I am. Summer Quaker is by Lila's Studio. It has 28,000 stitches, so she's going to be big. And I'm at 2,800, so I'm just over 10%. I started this, again, like I said, that first week of January. I think I started this with Erin 2 Martini Stitcher. Or I think so. And I stitched on it in January for the incentive sale, which is Catherine Accounting My Stitches. She did an incentive sale, and so I did that in January for extra workouts or yogas. I could stitch another 100 stitches. So I've stitched quite a bit since then, and this is my other summer solstice project. So I'm stitching on this, alternating with Blueberry J for the whole of the summer. Now this is a big pattern. I will not finish it this year. I think my goal is, okay, if I'm at 10%, I would love to get another 10% on this, maybe to 25% by the end of the summer, which I think I can do because I've been stitching like 200, 250 stitches at a time. Super easy to stitch on. This is a 28 to 30 count linen that I thrifted. Don't know what it is, but it is super easy to stitch on, looks great. And I think I thrifted 2 yards for like $6, or that's in one of my earliest Flosstubes. So really enjoying this. Mostly the called for DMC. I had a lot of one of these oranges and one of these blues. So I like went up or down one color to get whatever I had the most of, because I had like 2 or 3 skeins of it. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to use what I have. And then this is classic Colorworks Blackbird, because I had extra from the sampler for Grace, and so I wanted to use that right here. The other project that you would have seen in my, let me get the dust off it, don't mind that, in my WIP parade was my Blessing sampler start that I started the first day of January, and that was Laura's Frisian Sampler by Modern Folk Embroidery. This is a Blessing sampler. Okay, I did some research on this. The Flosstube community says a Blessing sampler is like an old French tradition where you start a project on January 1st, and if you can finish it in the month of January, that's good luck. I did a lot of research, and the earliest mention of it I could find is in a Hands Across the Sea newsletter. But on Google Books, I was not able to find any other mention of it. So take it with a grain of salt. Regardless, it's a fun tradition to work on. So again, the idea is you finish it in January, you'll have good luck all year. So I did finish it in January. When you saw this, I was about at 18%, and I finished it by January 31st. This is on 35 count Witchelt antique lamb's wool, and I actually really like stitching on this. And it's a DMC conversion that I did myself, which I had in my description in my early January Flosstubes, but I went totally rogue on the colors because I like pink, and this gave me plenty of pink. So I know. Oh, and I thrifted this frame at Goodwill. I looked at a million Goodwills and thrift stores and finally found it at my Goodwill in sometime in April. It had a really weird photo in it, but you can see it has the museum quality glass. But yeah, it was like $6, and it fits it perfect. So that was a steal. All right. The last WIP you would have seen in my previous WIP parade was Local Conditions, excuse me, again by Satsuma Street. I was at 0.5%. I had 2 days done. This is a temperature stitch where you stitch a floss color based on what temperature it is. And as you can see, I'm not totally caught up, but I'm doing pretty well. It stays in this vintage hoop. I didn't take it out to iron it because I work on it a lot. I'm now at 43%. I am only on the first week of June, so I'm quite behind. This is 18 count Ada that I hand dyed. Kind of over this, but we're going to keep trucking. So those were the projects that I brought into 2026 and started in early January. And so now I'll keep rolling with the other projects that I started. These are mostly in chronological order, not 100%, but we're going to roll with it. Let me make sure. Yes, okay. The next one, another JEDxStitch. I like cross stitch. This I started in January 30th, 2026 for the hashtag Not a Fascist Style by Kansascitygirl in a Colorado World. That was her birthday start along. And I started it along. This is on more of that pink Ada that I hand dyed. This one is a more of a brighter pink with a hint of orange in it. I think it's 18 count. It's kind of crunchy Ada. It's definitely, I thrifted it. It's probably from Michael's. I don't love it, but it is what it is. I'm now at 7%, 1,300 stitches out of 19,000 stitches. Doing it, I think mostly in the called for DMC. I might have switched up one of these colors. I'm not going to be doing the Threadworks blue because I didn't own it. I love JEDxStitch. This project is going to be giant, and I wasn't intending on starting it, so it's not a focus piece. So I don't know when I'll finish it because she big. I got a lot of other stuff to work on. Sorry, you can see the camera shadow because the sun is moving. So I know a lot of people are working on that. Jandi already finished it. She's such a fast stitcher. But I don't know when I'm gonna finish that. Okay, let me see what's next. Okay. And I also just realized that I'm missing a project and I don't know where I put it. I'm missing Anemone by JEDxStitch. I know where it is. Stand by. It's in here. Oh. Okay. Nailed it. All right. The next start is not by JEDxStitch. It is by Barbara Anna Designs, and it is Winter Goddess, I think is the name of it. I started this March 13th, and this is on a blue linen. I don't know what linen this is on. Because it has a serged edge. So I didn't dye it. I don't know. I off cut it. So it's on something. I don't remember. Anyway, this was my snow day start. So, like I mentioned, I started Sunny Day when it was sunny all winter, but then it snowed on the 13th of March, which was wild, crazy. So I decided to do a snow day stitch. So I started this and I kept working on it through March. I'm at 14%, and I'll pick it up again in December. Mostly called for DMC. I think I had a different navy in my stash, so I went darker for this. I'm also, I believe, a half stitch off the whole thing. Like when I started, I didn't start against the post, but I had stitched on it for like 3 or 4 days before I realized that. So that's just how it is. So I'll pick that back up again, probably in the winter. I really love stitching on this. I think it's beautiful. It's been really fun to stitch on. The next project, probably a UFO, is JEDxStitch Anemone. This was one of her Nashville Needlework Market releases. This is a X-Stitch the Rainbow release with the Cottage Garden thread pack. You can see I've got here. I hate this fabric. This is Ada that I tried to ice dye at the beginning. I would have started this in March, so I tried to ice dye this. It didn't work. It just didn't work. I also decided that I wanted, I drew this kind of like outline of a circle in heat pin because I have these thrifted white frames that I wanted to try to like fit it in, kind of make it look like an aquarium. But it's so much larger that I'm like having to stitch out the border, and that got really boring and is sucking up the thread, and I don't love it. And I made a mistake in the clownfish on his tail, and I think I'm just going to restart it because this is just trash Ada and I don't like it. So I stitched on it this week and was kind of like, I'm not loving that at all. So that's probably going to be a UFO. And that's okay. All right, the next project I started was March 21st, and it is Tiny Modernist Book Goddess. This pattern has 15,000 stitches. I'm at almost 2,600, so I'm about 16%. This is a really fun stitch. It came out around the time of Nashville Needlework Market. However, she released the PDFs at the same time, so I didn't have to wait for the PDF, but I pre-ordered the paper pattern, so I own both, I guess. I don't know. This is my progress so far. I changed the hair because I have pink hair, not purple. So I changed the hair and I changed the dress because I was in a very sassy mood. So I was like, I'm just going to change everything. And do I have regrets? Probably. Because this is a fancy floss. I don't remember which one. They're around here somewhere. But I've already misplaced it once. So yeah, that's just how it's going. I also changed the darker color to Blackbird by Classic Colorworks for both of those. So this is a 32 count, I believe it's Sapphire Linen by Witchell. And I actually really like it. I don't mind it that much. It's a stiffer linen, but I'm really enjoying stitching on this. I'm enjoying seeing how other people stitch it or change their hair color. That's been fun. Okay. The next project that I started was, oh, I've got it. It's laying over here. 1 second. All right. The next project is another JEDxStitch. There's a theme. This is Pink Wren. And I started this in late March as well for a Nashville Needlework Market start. I ended up scanning this paper pattern in because she hadn't released the PDFs yet. And I'm doing it, I think, mostly in the called for DMC. And this is a 32 count Fox and Rabbit Emu Bush, I think. Let me look. Oh, I don't have notes. This is my markup. Duh. I am stitching the top curved part, which I've done quite a bit of. So I scanned it in. It's roughly 12,000 stitches, and I'm about 13%. So I've paused this while I'm working on a lot of other JEDxStitch patterns and a lot of the other patterns. But I do want to come back to it. I did not purchase any of the other bird patterns that Jessica just put out in her summer release. Although I do like her yellow canary pattern, which is an homage to the Blueprints, which is a game I am playing on Switch 2. But I've got a lot of stitches. Even though I've stitched 53,000 stitches this year, I have a lot of projects to keep working on. And my stitch count each month has gone down as work has gotten busier and busier. So I just can't add more large projects to my WIPs. All right, another project that I started is, let me see which one I started first. Okay. Sorry. All right. It is this, a sampler for Grace by Shaded Stitchery. I did not take this out of the Q-Snap. I am actively working on it. This is another big one. This is 16,000 stitches. I've got 1,400 stitches in, so I'm at 8.7%. This is one of Nuri at Shaded Stitchery's Nashville releases from March. And the idea is she found some research on this young woman named Grace, who was an enslaved woman, but worked on the stitching of the first American flag with Betsy Ross. I believe that's the story. So what if Grace had done a sampler around the same time? So I started this in mid-April, and I am this far along. I'm stitching this 1/1 on this 36 count Zweigart. It is the lightest pre-printed Zweigart vintage snow, vintage something. I can never remember. And I dunked it in taupe Grit dye for 3 minutes to get it a darker color. The called for is Affogato, and that was too dark. So I restarted this with the called for Classic Colorworks. And I'm really liking it. It's a bit fussy with the 1/1. Sorry. I'm stitching it 2/1. No. Let's start that over. I'm stitching it 1/2. 1 thread over 2 linen. Nailed it. But I'm doing 1/1 on the letters. Never stitched 1/1 before. I've never stitched 1/2 before either. I'm generally a 2/2 stitcher. Did I say any of that wrong previously? Maybe. Don't care. Probably not going to go back and edit it. If I noticed it when I'm editing the video, I will put a thing. I've been trying to keep up with the stitch along that Annie at XO Needle in the Hay XO is kind of leading on Instagram, but I am so far behind. So I stitched on this most recently for Juneteenth, and we'll try to pick it up, you know, between now and I don't know when. It's not necessarily a summer focused project, but I'll probably work on it in July quite a bit too. All right. I believe that is all but one of my projects that I still have as WIPs. Yep. Okay. My last WIP is another shaded Stitchery. It's called Closely Kept Number 5. This is actually a restart. So I started this in February and got, I don't know, 100 stitches in and was like, no, this is just not it. There's no way. I was using a colored floss that was just too similar to the fabric, and it was ghosting and I couldn't see my stitches. So I kept the fabric, but restarted the floss. And so this is like this. This is Watermelon by Weeks Dye Works. And then the floss is Sunset by Classic Colorworks. So I'm kind of going for like a tone on tone type thing. And I really like it so far. I won this pattern from Stephanie at Cross Stitch the Globe in a giveaway. And so I've been working on it slowly. I started this on Juneteenth as well in this, I don't know, random oval hoop that I have. I'm at 12%. So I have 186 out of 1,500 stitches. This is a very cool pattern because you can either stitch the main pattern or the relief of it, which would leave all of these stitches the fabric color, and you stitch all of it around it, which is quite a bit more stitches. And I believe it's based on like a daguerreotype or silver print holder that Nuri saw at the Smithsonian and then kind of designed a pattern around it. So those are my WIPs so far. Like I mentioned, I have 16 WIPs so far. I've done about 53,000 stitches. I've also finished 6 projects. I believe I finished 1 a month. Most of them were fairly small. I think the largest that I finished was, well, my disco ball. I did 15,000 stitches on my disco ball this year. Everything else has been a little bit smaller. So in terms of like the plans for these finishes, I would love to finish the shaded Stitchery, Coneflower Chorus, which I showed you. Did I show you? I didn't show you Coneflower Chorus. Okay, Coneflower Chorus is my other WIP that I started, a Nashville start. This is by the Blue Flower. It has a Baldani floss pack. This is on a sapphire linen. It's on a witch old linen that I'm stitching that Mirabilia on. I think it's called sapphire. 2/2, and I'm going to work on this on my vacation. So this I'm at 7%. Now I'm done with my whips. I will definitely finish this summer. I want to finish Blueberry J. I want to finish the Coneflower, sorry, the Closely Kept by Nuri. I want to make good progress on the Summer Quaker by Lila Studio. And then I want to finish Monster House by Halloween. I know I'll start a million Halloween projects, so I kind of need to pace myself with those, but those are my priorities. I'll keep stitching on local conditions, fine. And I will keep stitching on Witch's Road, my full moon stitch. But everything else is kind of a nice to finish. But those are the only projects that I'm like really gonna focus on finishing. And that's it. So if you made it this far, thanks so much. Leave a calendar icon down below so I know you watched all the way to the end of the WIP parade. And I'll see you next time. Take care.